Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're going to be doing something different again. And I actually got a subscription to GPT-4, which is the better Chat GPT supposedly, that is supposed to be more accurate than the old one. And so what I wanted to do was test it with a bunch of LeetCode questions, and I want to try to figure out how well it does and what things it's good at and what things it's not good at. So that's what this video is going to be good about. So let's get started. So first, let's just take a problem that it should be able to do. So let's just say something like this. Let me even write this follow-up. So I'll just say code this in Python. Okay, hash map. Cool. Yep. Okay. All right. So let's just copy this. I think I need this. Okay. Hopefully I didn't script a function definition. Okay. Let's do maybe this. Hopefully it uses the same yeah, I think this uses the same thing. Okay, cool. Okay, so I can do something like do some. Now let's do some problems. You know what I actually noticed with this is, and I did talk to a lot of people about this today and recently, and so ChatGPT doesn't really make new code. It's more like a better Google, where like if there is stuff, it'll find it quicker and it'll be accurate. And so let's look at some other problems. Let's just actually let's do this. Let's look at the difficulty and let's do hard problems, but let's do old hard problems that there are a lot of solutions. So something like this maybe. Like this, or like this one. I've done this one in a video. So I'll just say, I don't know if I can actually copy a board, but let's try it. So write me a solution in Python for this, and I'll say the code needs to start with this. Okay. And so it needs to start with this. Okay. So backtracking, that's correct. Recursively seems fine to me. No digits, returns false. Yeah, sounds good to me. Okay, so it has checks for is valid. It has a solve function, so that makes a lot of sense. So let's copy this code. Hopefully that runs. Okay. Okay, so it can solve something like that. So, like I said, if you're gonna have old problems that have been solved a long time ago, and there's a lot of solutions, it's kind of like Googling it, right? Like if I Google this problem, I'll find a bunch of stuff. So now let's try something else. So now what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna go to my contest, past contest here, and we're actually gonna go to the problems from last week's weekly contest. So let's say like a problem like this, where I did this problem in my last video yesterday. Not my last video, but I have done it. And so let's try to do something like this and see what happens. So we're gonna do the same thing. Okay, let's see here. So write me Python code for this. And I'm gonna say the same thing. It needs to start with this. Now let's see what happens. Okay, dynamic programming, that is what I used. Creates a 3D array, which is interesting. That's the other thing is, like, let's say even if it can solve this, if it's using algorithms that are really hard to debug because it's not like a person wouldn't really make a 3D dynamic programming array, right? Seems kind of confusing. And so it's going to be like, if it's hard to debug and it has bugs, that's going to be kind of tough. So let's see what happens here. Let's take a look at this code and see if it's readable. Okay, so it has some lambda expression, which is also interesting. It's getting these numbers out of hard to say where. Okay, let's see what happens here. All right. Okay, so we're out of range. So let me just make sure this is kind of integers. Yeah, okay, so it's actually fine. So let's go back and put this over here. And now let's tell them it's out of range. So just say here, or actually say for this line of code, it says list index out of range. Can you fix that? Okay. And so the other thing I noticed with Chat GPT is it's very confident when you try to tell it to do something. So it'll tell you, if you try to fix something, it'll be like, yeah, sure. I know exactly what I did wrong. And then it'll give you something that's like, okay, well, this seems, if you start reading it, you're like, oh, yeah, sounds great. Okay, so let's see what happens. And remember, this is GPT-4, which is supposed to be the more correct version compared to GPT-3. Now, obviously, in the future, they might make this better, but I think the main problem with this kind of stuff is, like I said, if you give it stuff it hasn't seen before, which you can argue maybe it'll just train on more stuff, and like how many things has it not seen before, right? Like if it just scrapes the entire internet, it's pretty hard to give things that it hasn't seen before. But let's see what happens. Okay, so we run again and we're out of range again. So what if we tell it this is still out of range? Can you fix this? Okay, you're right, yep. Appreciate my patience. Okay, so notice it gave you something here, right, which is like one answer. Now let's see what it gives here. Okay, it's giving you another. Actually, no, it's saying it's literally saying the same thing, I believe, actually. But let's see what happens. Let's see if it actually changed the code. So let's see here. No, it actually gives you the same exact code, right? So it goes to 208. Okay, let's copy it. Let's write it again. Okay, so it actually gave you new code. Okay, well now it's not out of bounds, but we're just getting the wrong results. So you kind of see the point. So for this problem, we'll just call that a fail. Now let's go to something else. But once again, if you keep asking, it's like, oh yeah, definitely. I'll fix it for you. This would work for sure. So let's go to this problem. This is rather new, I think, right? So let's see what happens. Maybe we'll skip this problem because it has like a bunch of matrices and whatever. I'll actually give it the easy problem. So minimize string length, easy problem worth 3 points. Okay. So let's just say, let's do this. So let's go to the discussion so should be able to hopefully copy. Yeah, here we go. So give me Python code for this. It needs to start with this. And so you could see I was toying with this earlier, actually. But let's see what happens. Okay, we use a stack. So let's get rid of all this code. We're going to put in new code. Okay, sounds good. I haven't actually done this problem, so I'm not entirely sure what the solution is, but it's an easy problem, so. Okay. So hopefully it'll do this one. Okay, well, it's wrong again. So let's say that. So for case 2, or this is example 2, right? Yeah, so 2 given above, and let's actually even write it in. This is supposed to return 3, but we got 2. That's the problem. Apologize. Thanks for apologizing. Okay. Handle this. Let's. Okay. Frequency map. Okay. Let's copy that. Okay, now everything fails. And so you kind of get the point that if you give it problems that, like, this is a pretty new problem, I think. Right, there is no editorial. There's, not too many solutions. I mean, there are solutions, but there's no editorial, and it's a fairly new problem. And so what I was trying to get at with Chat GPT for these problems where people are like, oh, it'll pass LeetCode interviews. Like, you can just cheat and it'll just pass everything and, like, everything's dead. The thing is, if you give it stuff that it hasn't seen before, and also, I mean, you can, since everyone's going to have access to this, you can easily make some problems and pass it into ChatGPT and see if it's wrong. And then you can even, I've tried this before too, where I would write some code and then it had a bug to solve one of these problems. But then because these problems are rare, it would give me some, like, fix that it never says, like, I don't know or anything, right? It always like, yeah, for sure, here's what it is, straightforward. And then you try it and it still doesn't work. And so I think what it is just like Google, you can't Google something that has never been seen. And so what people are going to have to do more often is just not be lazy with, creating problems. They'll probably have to make newer problems more often. But yeah, if you give it some, like I said, we'll give it like another hard problem maybe that's really old, like what's really common, like this one. I actually have a video for this problem. Maybe I don't want to do this one because it has boxes. But yeah, let's do this last one. So let's just do something like something that doesn't have, like this one. I did a video for this one as well. Okay, and so this in Python. So I think, like, no matter how hard the algorithm, as if it's been out there for a while, and let's just say follow up this, and it has to start with this. Okay, and so no matter how hard the algorithm, no matter how hard the problem is, if you think about it, it's pretty much just like Googling an old problem. So if it's hard, but it's been out forever, it's not going to be hard to find a solution. But you still do definitely have to understand what it does. But there's no benefit of doing that. Okay, so now it actually gave me an error. So let's regenerate here. Yeah, and so it definitely gives you decent explanations, but the problem is a lot of the explanations are just wrong, and it's very hard to know that, like, that it's wrong. So I will definitely say that I have been using ChatGPT recently to help me with code. Like, I do think it's very good for if you're trying to learn it. Like, I've been learning JavaScript, and I don't know, some simple things, and it does that. But the problem is if you give it new things, I've literally given it. So I had some JavaScript assignment I was doing, and it was like a 5 liner of recursion, and it's just like something that I've seen. It's not like a LeetCode problem. It was just in something else, and I wrote it in like, hey, do this, and it couldn't do it. It was like literally, you had a problem where you're given some number, and then what you had to do was you had to print. So let's say you're actually given something simpler. Let's say you're given like this. What you have to print is you have to print a number, and then you have to print a number with one less digit every time. Something like this. And so it couldn't do that, which was like I realized later, it was like a 5 liner with recursion. So let's see here. But yeah, so this is like, hard, quote unquote, hard problem, whatever. Okay, so first of all, it did use a lot more code, but whatever, that's fine. Yeah, so you could see like old stuff, perfect. New stuff, not a lot of info, a lot of errors. And I've seen this a lot. Like most of these problems I've been doing that are on these contests, when I chat GPT them, I get the same result. So we'll do one last one just to show you. So we're gonna go to the problem, actually not the problem list, we're gonna go to LeetCode, and we're gonna go to maybe like a contest 2 weeks ago, let's say, right? Where there's still not too much info on it. So let's just go to this one, May 27th. Okay, so we have this. I don't want to do something with a matrix because I'm not sure how that will copy, but let's even do the easiest one. That would be funny if you can't do that, but I mean, maybe like this is too easy and there's a lot of stuff on it, but let's see. Okay. So code for this, and it has to start. And I am curious, maybe my prompts that I'm giving it are not the best, where like there's definitely some better stuff you can ask. So if you guys have any ideas, or if you have done these things and it works for you, I would be curious to, if you let me know in the comments. That would be interesting. But okay, so I think maybe this one, yeah, it just like has a strip, so maybe this one was a little too easy. Yeah, okay. And so let's actually, instead of doing that one, let's go to, so I think there was a weekly one and there was a bi-weekly, same date. Okay, so let's go to that one. Greatest common divisor traversal, here we go. So let's go to that problem. Not so easy. Obviously, if the thing is like one function, then sure. Okay, so let's pass in this. Give me Python code for this. It has to start with this. Okay. So let's see what happens. So this is another problem that I did in a video. I think this was around last week. So let's take a look. Okay, problem, let's just, graphs connected. Seems right. Union find is what I did. Cool. Let's see what we get here. So DSU, disjoint set, makes sense. Parent, okay. I think that looks right actually. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think this does work. I will say this is the unoptimized. Maybe there is like there's a lot of data on union find, and so that's one that I might be able to do better because union find's a pretty old function, but it is still impressive that it got everything. So let's just take a look. Okay, so all elements are at least 2. So it does say 1, but if it breaks on 1, we'll just, okay. Or actually, let's just say edit this to support the case where nums can have 1 as well. So every element from 1 to 10 to the 5th is allowed in nums. Okay. So let's do that. So this should be able to edit it. Okay, there we go. special case, sure. Okay, it'll handle it separately. Interesting. Okay, no problem. Okay, so it'll do the union find again. And like I said, this will be a little slower, so if there's like some time limit exceeded, we can maybe ask for it to do a better DSU. There should be a lot of info on how to do a DSU. But like I said, that's something you can also Google as well. So it's pretty much, if you can Google it, you can Chat GPT it. But let's take a look. Okay, so let's copy that, paste it. Okay, so it does actually pass, I think. No, no. Okay, so it failed for it. It passed almost all of them. Okay, it's good. That's still pretty good. So let's just say it failed. So for input nums equals 1, 1, we got true, but we expected false because the GCD between numbers has to be, I think in the problem it says it has to be at least 2, right? Yeah, greater than 1 for it to be connected. Can we fix this for, say, the nodes? Okay, so let's do that. My apologies. Cool. Yep. And I did give it this information as well, but sure. But yeah, it did pass most of it, which is pretty impressive. But yeah, the nice thing, I think what's going to have to happen is one of two things when people actually make problems for coding interviews, if they want to be, make sure people aren't cheating. A, they have to try to put in their problem into ChatGPT and make sure it fails, make sure it's new enough to fail, make sure it's tough enough. Or I do think you might have to go back to whiteboarding just because, if you have another monitor and it's really easy, especially if it's an old problem, like ChatGPT will be pretty accurate on that. But, I mean, the other thing is, you know, it you can do it, but you're also gonna have to explain the problem. So if you like write all this, you still have to explain what everything does, which is on the fly. So I don't know how that would work exactly. Like if you're writing in a Google Doc or HackerRank or anything, and you're writing and you're going through your code, it's gonna be pretty hard to like what are you gonna do? Pause, read this whole thing, figure it out. That probably will take you like 10 minutes. So even if you have a solution that you haven't thought of yourself, can you really figure out what it does that for a hard problem in a small amount of time? I don't think so. See here. Okay, so now it's wrong for this one. But so you can kind of see that like it'll make a lot of errors for problems, but it was pretty close. It'll make a lot of errors for problems that are new, but for problems that are 4 years old or something, you can't ask things like that. At least if you're just looking for a result, or if it's like the other thing that might be obsolete maybe is like a take-home old problem, because that'll just be like, yeah, just Chat GPT, and it's done in like 5 minutes. There might be some kind of plagiarism thing. I'm not exactly sure, but I did think this was curious because people were definitely saying, oh, it can crack the Google interview or whatever. And it's like, well, I don't really think so as long as you take the time to make new problems and you just don't copy old stuff, at least so far. So we'll see how it goes in the future. And hopefully you like this video. And if you did, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.